Greetings, YouTube. This is Transgo Jobot with Graf-X Motion. We're doing another live stream session, and today we got some really cool animation stuff to show you guys. So, in addition to the normal animation stuff that we're going to do today, I'm actually going to show you guys how to do a motion slider, a motion-controlled slider through Dragonframe. If you don't have Dragonframe, you probably won't be able to do it this way. But this is a really, really cool thing to know. And if just want to show it to you guys so you guys even know if this exists in case you're not even aware of it, and how I'm going to use it today in an animation. This is part of Vector Sigma series, Volume 2. And so this is one of the scenes that I'm working on for that. So this is pretty cool stuff, and this is the part I really geek out about. So I think you guys are going to like it too. So let's go ahead and dive right into this thing, shall we? All right. So first thing I'm going to do is give you guys a little overview of what I'm working on and just what kind of layout I have here. And then we're going to show you a little bit about the scene that we're going to shoot. And then we're going to go all about the motion slider itself. So this should be pretty neat. Okay. Let me get moved over to a different camera view. All right, so as you can see right here, we have Optimus Prime. He's starting to do a running motion right now. So what he's going to be doing is he's actually running towards Megatron in this case. Megatron's not even on the set yet, but he and Megatron will be clashing in this episode, so he's going to be running towards him. What we're going to do then is actually take this camera here, and we're going to run it on a motion slider. And let me get my little camera thing out of the way here and show you there is a actual slider track here. And this motion slider is actually going to be controlled by an Arduino board. And let me bring this camera over here. Sorry about the strange angle. But as you can see, this slider is now powered by a stepper motor, and it has a belt system here that I added to this slider. I bought this slider off of eBay, and then I went ahead and added some of the components onto it and turned it into a motion-controlled slider. It's using an Arduino board here as the component to control the stepper motors. It has a little stepper motor driver here, and this add-on shield to the Arduino board lets me have up to control of 4 different motors at once. So right now this is a 1-motor rig, so we're just doing sliding back and forth, but eventually I'm going to add some other motors so I can do other types of things as well. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to use it in this particular setup. It's just basically connected via USB to this little USB hub here, which is connected to my Mac, and then it's got a power connection here and all these fun wires laying all around. So, so that is my cool little motion slider, and we're going to see this thing in action and how to actually set this up with the Dragonframe software. Let me get this roughly back in place here. Let me take a quick look at the chat log here, make sure I'm not missing much. Let's see. And again, hello to everyone. It's a pleasure seeing all of you guys here. Just see if there's any quick questions. So Megatron's ugly. Okay. Let's see. You learned about Arduino. Arduino is really, really cool. I recommend any of you guys start looking that up. And if you're not familiar with what Arduino is, it is an electronics little mini computer that you can pretty much do anything you want with. It is completely, it's just super, super flexible, and you could do all sorts of things, and there's tons and tons of tutorials out there on how to do things. Let's see. Oh, so you meant the one from the newest movie. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I think the actually I like the newest design from the last night better than the original Megatron design. That's just my weird personal taste. So, all right. How did I get this good? Well, first of all, I don't know that I'm that good at this, but about my motivation for this, I'll give you a quick little background on why I do what I do. So basically, the let me just make a quick switch here. So a few years ago, I haven't always really liked the Transformers movies. I wish some of the story elements were different. I wish things were different about them. It took me a while to get used to the designs. I wasn't a big fan of them at first. I've slowly warmed up to them over the years. But really, what it was for me, it was I saw a couple of different stop motion YouTube videos. There was the one from I think it's Harris. I think is his name, Harris Luro. Or I'm butchering his name. I apologize, but I'm sure you guys seen his Generations movie. Absolutely fantastic animation. And when I saw that, I'm like, now that is a cool animation because of the way that he did the transformations, and it just screamed like it was. I was like watching a G1 episode, and it was really, really amazing. And so, quite literally, his video is the one that truly inspired me. There were several others that really got me going in this, but he was the one that said, "Wow, what if I could do something similar?" And so that was almost 2 years ago. And so I decided that I was going to give it a whirl. And so that's what I did. I slowly, very slowly started dabbling in this. I've always liked video editing. I was never great at it, but I liked it. And so I thought, hey, if I could take some of my video editing skills and add it to stop motion, maybe I could make something cool. And so I decided I'm going to try to make something that I want to see. And so I slowly started learning how to do this. I did maybe 6 months of research, and where I constantly just looked things up, researched green screening, researched lighting, researched cameras, researched computers, researched software. And then as I could, I would buy different pieces of the puzzle, knowing on what I was going to do. And that's exactly where it ended up going. That's what inspired me. And so slowly but surely, when I see, hey, now that's really cool, I wonder how they did that, I go start researching how they did something, and then I learn how to do it myself, and I incorporate it in my own stuff. So what I'm trying to do is cut some of that out for you guys and show you some of the things that I've learned along the way. All right, sorry, I don't mean to be ignoring the live chat here. Yeah, I know, Bayformers, not Transformers. You know, I don't think there has to be so much hate for the movie stuff, and I'm okay with calling it Transformers. In fact, there are going to be elements of it I think I'm going to actually attempt to cross over in my Vector Sigma series. I think I want to start to bridge the gap between G1 and movie, and so there are some people can start to see that there's a way to actually like them both at one time. And so I already did it a little bit in the volume one. Barricade was in there, and no one cared because he was just a Decepticon car. But to be quite honest with you, there is a place for both G1 type era stuff and doing the movie stuff in limited amounts. It has to make sense to the story, but just a little bit. I don't want to. It's not going to be like full blown. Oh, look, I just switch it over into movie stuff. No, it has to make sense to the story, in my opinion. And so that's what I'll be doing as it makes sense along the way. I may incorporate some movie characters or movie versions of the characters if it makes sense to the story. So that's That's how that is. And if I'm missing any of you guys, I know there's a bunch of stuff going on here, but please just re-ask your question if it's something you really want to know. If I'm skipping over it, it's likely not intentional. I'm just trying to do a lot of things at once. So let's see. What software do I use? I use primarily Dragonframe, which you're going to see a little bit here in just a few seconds. And I also use Final Cut Pro, which I'll also show you, my video editing software. And at some point, we'll do a little bit of I'll give you a little bit of the preview of Vector Sigma Volume 2, so you guys can get a little chunk of that. And not much, but some. We'll do a little bit of that. And then, yeah, then we're going to go ahead and get all this stuff set up, and we're going to actually do an animation. So this is gonna these live stream videos are always going to be long for me because animation takes me forever, guys. So I'm just warning you now. This is going to be a long video. So if you need to drop in and out, that's totally cool with me. No problem there. So hopefully you guys get some stuff out of this. Yeah, just definitely keep it family friendly. I agree. Thank you, Luke. I don't tolerate swearing. I don't tolerate any type of inappropriate jokes on my channel. If I see comments like that, I ask them to get it cleaned up, and if they don't, I remove them. I let my kids watch and look at all the stuff that I do, and personally, I don't swear. So I don't find that cool. So it's just what I am. It's who I am, and so I just don't think it's funny. I think you can be more intelligent than swearing. So that's my personal opinion. But I digress. I didn't mean to go on a soapbox there. So, but yeah. So I appreciate it. Keep it family friendly, and then we'll all have a nice, good time here. The difference between Dragonframe 4 and the upgrade and the full version. So Dragonframe 4 is just their newest release, and I actually have it loaded here. We're going to take a look at Dragonframe. And let's actually go ahead and do that now. So we're going to switch over here. So here we have Dragonframe. And so what I have here is, this is the live view here. I'm going to push number 3 on my computer here, and just to get this live screen turned off or turned back on. So now, as you can see, when I wave in front of the camera, you can actually see my fingers there. So this is the live view of the action. So here's what I have framed in at the moment. Here's my timeline here. This is where I can add in notes and different things, so I know if I want them to step in a certain place or whatever. So I make notes here. And then down here is a timeline that you can load up as well. I don't really use the timeline down here all that much. You can expand it by showing it right here. But everyone has their own way of doing it. I'm not real big into the timeline. Down here, I like it on the side. So, but first thing is first, is what I like to do is I like to get a soundtrack done. And that's the first thing that we do. So we go back to Final Cut Pro. So Final Cut Pro is my video editing software. And hopefully this all stays nice and smooth for you guys. So far it looks like everything's green across the board, but I'm running a lot of stuff on my Mac right now, so hopefully we can keep this thing going. Let's see, when will part 2 of Vector Sigma be done? I'm not quite halfway done with the animation, so I believe I'm targeting, I'd love to say end of September, but with school starting and everything getting busier, I just know that I'm going to have less time to work on it, so it's probably going to push into October. So that's my guess. So, and then I'm hoping for Rivals Part 2 by the end of the year. So if you're looking for that, that one will stay strictly movie line, and that will be Rivals Part 2, hopefully by end of the year. So let's see. So here is here's a scene. Now, what I do is I take temporary pictures. So all of these pictures you see here are just me taking just quick candid shots with my camera. And I lay it all out, and then I add in all my voices and my main sound effects and my music ahead of time before I even start animating. And so this is what if I need to use the washroom? Well, I am stuck in my office. If you see the rest of my office, I am literally surrounded by lights, green screens, and everything. I am stuck in here for 2 hours with you guys. So hopefully I'm okay. So, but anyways, as you can see what I have here, so this is like finished animation right here. So if I push that, you know, that's finished animation compared to these still frames that just represent what I want to happen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have this part here where Optimus is running towards, he's going to dodge a blast from Megatron, and then he's going to keep running. So this is the part that we're going to animate today. And so when I want to do an animation, then I go ahead and I do my range selection tool. I just click the first one here, and then I just drag out to the section that I want to do. So here's the section I want. And then I'm going to share out basically an MP3 file of this. This is going to be, I did finish the Swagwave contest entry, but he has not announced who has won. He says he knows who's won, but he hasn't announced it, and it probably won't be till September. So that's all I know about the contest. But yeah, I did push off Vector Sigma Volume 2 for a few weeks to get the contest entry done. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I loved making it. It was a lot of fun. So I just do audio only, MP3. And then I go ahead and I save this thing out. I have a spot here for audio soundtracks. And we'll just do Vector Sigma Volume 2, and this is Scene 310. So now it will share this out and then export this soundtrack out to a file. How do I get those voices? I record some of them myself. I ask for other people to do voice acting for me. So it's a big mix. Yeah, if you had Dragonframe 3 before, is that the version that you had before? Because if you had Dragonframe 3, then you can go ahead and okay. If you never had any of them, then you have to buy the full version one time. Otherwise, if you have the previous version, like I had Dragonframe 3, and then you can buy. In fact, I think it actually let me do the upgrade for free. Did I have to pay? I don't think I had to pay for that. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I may have to check on that, but I thought I actually got upgraded from 3 to 4 for free. So I'm pretty sure on that. Just because I'm using a Mac doesn't make it any better or worse. But I will tell you this: that if you, a lot of people will use Premiere or Adobe After Effects, which are fantastic products, and they also are available on the Mac as well. But here's the thing: what I found out is that subscription is just extremely expensive per month, and I'm sorry, I just can't afford that. So I don't want to pay monthly to use the software that I'm doing as a hobby. So therefore, I found that Final Cut Pro does everything I want it to do, and it was $300 one time. And you can get Final Cut Pro, Motion, and like 3 other music-related apps, which are really cool, for $200 if you're a student or know a student. So I highly recommend, if you have a Mac, check that out. It is absolutely worth its weight in gold if you want to do any type of stop motion. The Final Cut is fantastic. The workflow is great. I really love using it. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is the scene that we're going to work on. So I'm going to shrink this down. We're going to go ahead and load that sound effect that I just basically exported into here. So I'm going to make sure that my audio panel is here. So here's my audio panel, and I'm going to push this first icon here and then navigate out to that area where I had my files. So audio soundtracks, and then here it is right at the top, 310. So I import that, it plops it in place. So as you can see, this is not very long. It's just over 2 seconds long. And this is what we're going to use to animate. Most of these are steps, stomping on the ground in some of Megatron's laser blasts here. So we could play it back here. So that's what we have to animate to. All right. So this will help me time out where I need the stomps to be. So what this is basically then showing me here is, here's the waveform going downwards. And so I know that there's a stomp right at the very beginning, because you could see that the audio starts there and it quiets down, and then here's the next stomp down on 13. So like what I would do here is I'd go and place a note and say, this could be like step 2. And this one up here is step 1. And then again down here, you can see right in this frame, this is where he's stepping down for the 3rd time, step 3. And right here is step 4. So now I know when his ground or foot needs to touch the ground. The Soundwave voice is really cool. I will have to show that to you guys on a separate live stream, because I actually use a different computer to generate the Soundwave Says stuff, and it has all the plugins that I purchased in order to do it are all loaded on the other machine, and my studio mic is on the other machine, etc. So we will. I'll do a separate live stream and show you guys all about Soundwave Says at some point, and I'll teach you how I did it. It'll be a little while before I get to Soundwave Says, but it's pretty cool. It took me. I literally worked at that for over 3 months solid, just that voice, because I was determined to get a good sounding Soundwave voice. So. But and if any of you guys are doing stop motions and you want me to do a voiceover work for your sound waves, just let me know, and if I can fit you into my schedule, I will just record the lines out for you. So there's no problem with that. Let's see. Do you know any programs I can use? So yeah, there are plenty of other stop motion apps out there. There is another one called iStopMotion, I believe, is another one that you can load on a Mac. I think they have a Windows version as well. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe that was a Mac only. But that's one that you can use. There's tons of them on iOS and Android devices if you use that. So Luke, you're asking what my name is? Is that what you want to know? So I go by Transgo Jobot just because that's just fun. And I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of Muppet Babies, but it came from that, something from my childhood that I remember. And so there was an episode of Muppet Babies that had Transgo Jobot. It was a little robot guy that Scooter managed to purchase, and he ended up like taking over the nursery. It was kind of funny, but anyways, so I call myself Transgo Jobot on this and on the Transformers forums, but my first name is Garrett. So let's see. All right. Other than that, so now that we have our basic layout here, now what we need to do is actually start working on the motion portion of it. So this is how the motion works. This is pretty crazy. Okay, so we're going to go up here to this little gear piece here, and then there is this wave that, or this like pattern that you can create here. And so we're going to go over here to this, like the last frames of what we need to do. We're going to put a keyframe here. And we're going to delete this one here. Okay, so now we have a keyframe at this point here, and we have a keyframe at the original point here. So we're gonna perform a motion. So what we want to do is at this first keyframe, I'm gonna just push the home button. I'm just gonna make sure that it's at the home position. So you see where it says 0 here? This is the position that I'm in. And so if I go and actually push this here, what I'm going to do is I want to switch over to this camera view. I want you to see the actual the camera. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using these controls, these arrow keys here, and it's going to actually move my camera on the slider. So I'm going to get this a little bit more in frame here. And so here is the actual camera. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually tell it to move the camera. And as you can see, the camera is slowly sliding along the track as I'm holding down the arrow key on the computer screen. And so it is controlling this motion here. I'll be honest with you, if my stuff would never look the way it does if I used a phone to do my stop motions. I'm just going to tell you that right now. There is no way. I cannot tell you how much Dragonframe does for me to be able to line things up and to do things smoothly and to do things in a particular way. I don't know how I would do it without Dragonframe. And I know that sucks for some of you guys that can't even think about buying it. So don't think that you can't do it without Dragonframe, but it makes a huge difference. It just does. I'm not gonna say it doesn't. So now that I move this back, I'm gonna go ahead and flip back over here to back to my app here. And as you can see, what I did is I just went ahead and moved to this keyframe, and I moved the arrows over, and it moved the camera physically. So now I'm going to go back over here, and now you can see the perspective has changed. Let me get this wrong thing here. Get this little panel out of the way. So now I'm up here. Now obviously there's a focus issue because I don't have focus control on here. So I'm going to have to manually focus this along the way. But so this right here is now the new perspective. This is the ending spot. So if I wanted to, I could then tell the software here. Let me Get back over to, I believe there's a reset motion here. It's because I haven't started recording yet. Okay, so that's fine. We'll do this. I think I can get the. I think there's a way to actually have both the animation screen and this at the same time. That's not what I wanted. All right, well, anyway. For the camera, I have a Canon 700D. It's not a super. It's expensive, but it's not like it's not thousands of dollars. It's not a full framed camera. It's just a half frame camera. Yeah, I would be as far as the team up as far as customizing goes, I wouldn't be opposed to it. The problem is I just simply can't afford all the other figures to actually customize them. So that's really the worst part about it. And there's a lot of times I don't want them customized for myself for my own collection. Um, Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I'm kind of picky on that. Dragonframe, I believe, cost me right around $300. There, I put my name in the chat so you guys understand what I said. Okay. So now that we have the uh, the starting point and the ending point, what happens is I can go ahead and push this go to home, and I'm going to flip back over here, and you can start to see the motion that this is going to be taking as I'm animating. What's really cool about this is I place the starting and end point on which frame that I want to end and which frame I want to start. And it's going to calculate how far it needs to move the camera every time for me without me having to think about it. So every time I record a frame, it will automatically move the camera for me into the next position. And so all I will have to do is just worry about focus each time it moves. And so now it moved back into its first spot. I'll adjust my focus again and get that back into focus. And then this is going to be like shot number 1. And so what's also neat about this is I can control how smooth the action actually is here. So if I want to, like for example, if I want it to be slower at first and then faster in the middle, I could actually adjust these little controls here, and it will actually change how it actually does the motion of it. So you can get exactly the fluid motion that you're looking for. So you can have it real, stiff and just real sharp, or you can have it real nice and fluid. So this is going to move a little slower at first, and then it's going to go faster in the middle, and then it's going to ease back out at the end with the curve here. And that's really the motion you want to go for when you're animating. It's the most natural motion to ease into something, to go a little slower at first, go faster in the middle, and then slower at the end. That is a very natural look, and that's the best way to actually get a good looking animation. Yeah, the camera I have is a Canon 700D. I just use the stock lens that comes with it, so I'm not using any special lens or anything. Yeah, Graf is my last name, Graf. So Graf-X is for graphics. It's a fun way that we used to, my brother and I used to do 3D animation a long time ago. We weren't very good at it. And back like around the year 2000. And we were doing our own Star Wars 3D animation at the time. And we always called ourselves Graf-X 3D then. And so I just decided to change it for graphics motion for animation. So yeah, I think Dragonframe has to be through the computer because it's actually software loaded on the computer. So that is a true thing. All right, let's uh, let's go ahead and continue on to the next thing. So now that we have our basic motion, so now what it's gonna do is it's gonna allow me to start up close to Optimus like this, and as he starts running towards the camera is gonna start pulling back and going upwards at an angle. If you let me show this here. So this is gonna be a little hard to see 'cause my phone's on a tripod right now. But oh, here, let me just remove it for a moment. So if you can see at the ground level here, you can see I actually have a incline happening. So I have my slider here. I'm using a tripod, just right here. There's my foot, and so I got a tripod here. It's just screwed into this little hole right here, and it's holding up, and it's going right at an incline. And then I have the other side sitting right up here, just up on the table. And so it's going at a slight upwards incline, and it's also going at an incline this way as well, or at an angle, I should say. So it's going to give it a really neat motion for the shot. So it's going to kind of look like if the camera is basically here, it's going to kind of pan up and over like this as he's running. So something similar to that. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I'm gonna get this set back up. Sorry, it's gonna be really jerky on the screen. I apologize. Okay, so everyone, let's see. Does it matter what computer you get? Dragonframe works for Windows and Mac, so you can get it for either one, and you can install it up to 2 machines. So right now I have it on my Mac, and I have it on the kids do some animations too every now and then, and they use a older Windows laptop that I had. So. All right. Yeah, I mean, Luke, I probably could use moderators, but hopefully everyone can just be cool about things, and we won't really need one. So we'll see. So, all right. So how do I do the transformations? Yeah, I showed that a little bit in the next one. This is not going to have any transformations in today's session, so that won't happen. So this is all going to be about just really integrating motion with the camera along with some animation. But we are going to do a running scene, which running is hard with animation in my opinion. It's very difficult to make a really smooth looking run. Walking is difficult enough, but running, if you actually watch someone run in slow motion, there is a point in time where they're actually in the air, where both feet are off the ground, and so that is very difficult to replicate in stop motion. But we're going to try it anyways. So at least that's the plan. So what I know now by loading things up the way I have it is I know that I'm going to be stepping right at the very beginning. So he's going to he's starting in a stepping position. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. I'm going to switch back to Dragonframe so you can see. So we're going to start with a stepping position. It makes the noise of the step here, and it kind of quiets down. And then he's going to step again around the 13th frame. So this is a 12 frame cycle, and I shoot everything in 24 frames per second. So it's 12 frames for half of a second. So I need to come up with 12 frames for him to actually do his motion, which is going to be difficult. So I'm going to turn the live view back on here. Yeah, walking and running cycles are so annoying. I completely agree with you. Okay, but we're going to have to do it because that's what the story calls for. So we're going to have Prime running here. We're going to have 12 frames. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 7 frames until he goes airborne. So it's going to take me 7 frames to get his other leg swung around. And then we're going to, there's one other thing actually that I need to do. So let me switch back to this view. So like I was saying, I want 7 frames for this foot to go up here, and then this other leg here to be extended. Then he's going to be 2 frames in the air, and then he's going to be landing for 3 more. So if we add that up, that's 12 frames. So that's my plan. Hey, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. I very, very encouraged and very humbled by how fast the channel has grown in the last few months. It was just a few months ago I had a 500 subscriber special. I think the last I checked I was over 2,100 subs already. So that is incredible, and I can't thank you guys enough. So this is why I'm trying to do these things, because I want to give back to you guys. So why don't I pirate the Adobe stuff? Well, I just have a philosophy in life where you pay for what you use. You do it the right way. And in the end, you're going to come out ahead if you do things the right way. And I truly believe that. And so that's what I try to live my life as. I try. It's a philosophy that I do, and I do my best to be respectful to others and to always do what I feel is the right thing to do. And pirating software, listen, there's a company out there that spent money and made it. And hey, is it expensive? Yeah. Is it that it prices me out of it? I would love to have used that software, but I can't afford it. So I have 2 choices. I can get it illegally and pirate it, and deny that company the money that they deserve, or I can use something different. And so I chose to use something different that cost me a one-time fee, and then I don't have to worry about paying for it again. And that's what Final Cut does for me. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a philosophy of mine. I don't judge anyone for if they choose to do it. That's your own call. Everyone's got to make up their own way in life. So that's not me. I'm not a judger. So all right. Hopefully that answers your question. So we're going to again work on this stepping, but we need to figure out, is my motion of the camera going to keep Optimus enough in frame in 12 frames? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the 12 frames here, and I believe, oops, hit the wrong one. I'm still learning the Mocha controls a little bit here, so you have to bear with me. So I believe there is one of these that lets me advance it to my current frame. Nope. Yes, move this to frame 12. Yes. So this is what I was looking for. So I want to go to frame 12, and I want to see where it's actually going to be, at frame 12. All right, so it's moved to frame 12, so now let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here's where I'm going to be at frame 12, but now I haven't actually moved my my stuff. So I just realized I didn't have Dragonframe up when I was moving it to frame 12, so I'll show you guys that in the next movement here. But so now that we have that, I'm going to basically just reposition Optimus so this back leg is where the front leg is. It's going to give me the same distance that he's going to be traveling, even though he's not moving his legs. But so we're going to just move him up like this. And so here's where he's going to be on frame 12. So he's still in frame and pretty much where he was the last time. So that, I think, is going to look good. So now let's check the next one. Now this after the second step, he actually has to dodge. So he's not really going to actually be walking much. He's going to actually be kind of lifting up and then setting his foot back down for the third frame. So he's not going to move much for the next one. But let's go ahead and see what it will look like. So let's go ahead and we're going to, here's how Dragonframe. So I switch back to the control plane here. We're going to move it to the next step, which is roughly here. You can see it in the wave pattern. And we're going to advance to this frame here. For some reason, I don't think it moved it to the right spot. Yeah, that did not work. Hang on, I think I did it the wrong way. Oh, I know what I just did. Okay, sorry guys. I have my ending frame at my starting position and my starting frame at my ending position. So that was my mistake. So okay, so I need to reset to this position here. So sorry about that, guys. So we're gonna wait for this to go. As you can see, my camera is slowly moving ever so surely. All right, so now what I want to do is if I switch back over here to Dragonframe, so I want to make sure that at this position is where I actually want this keyframe to be. So I'm going to set this keyframe here at this position. And then at my first position, I actually want that. Here, we're going to just go to the home position. the words in or the numbers here in white is the actual position of the camera on the slider. The red is where I had the keyframe, or the red. The blue is where I had the keyframe set at. So I just told it to go back to the 0 or the home position, and so I went ahead and did that. So now I'm going to make sure I'm at my first keyframe, which I am, and then I'm going to reset that one. So now you can see the graph is now opposite as how it was before, and so this is what we needed. So I apologize for having that backwards. All right, so now if I move this to the second step, so that is the frame, roughly frame 12 or 13. We'll say frame 14 here. So now if we go to this frame, it will be in the right spot. Yeah, no, that's not an attack, man. That's good criticism. There's nothing wrong with that. And there is different philosophies to how things should look. Um, there are tons of stop motions out there with gobs and gobs of action. In fact, so much action you can hardly even tell what's happening in some of them. And so I am actually more of the opinion that I want to actually see what my guys are actually doing. And these are 30-foot tall robots. They're not ninjas and Marvel action figures. They shouldn't be acting like ninjas and Marvel action figures. The Bay movies, to coin a term from earlier in the chat here, the Bay movies or the Bay former movies, they have really they make a lot of really cool action, but it is actions I don't think is realistic for a 30-foot robot. It's just too fast. Now there's certain characters that fits, but not every character. They make them look like they're samurai or they're people fighting on a battlefield, but they're not. They're 30-foot robots, and they lose some of the grandness and the size, the scale of them. So I do try to slow my action down a bit. That's a personal preference, and I don't want to make the coolest action scene I could possibly make the first animation. So I do want to build up to things as well, and so I start off a little bit slower in some of my animations. I want to actually build towards bigger, grander, more epic things. I don't want to start off doing the most epic thing I could possibly do, because then how do you ever improve from that, and how do you ever actually get better? And so that's kind of my philosophy. It's not a bad thing, and you should definitely feel free to make those comments. Yeah, freeze frames. I get what you're saying there. Um, there are freeze frames are hard because this isn't computer animation. So truly animating every little motion for every frame is something that's very, very difficult. And so I do use some freeze frames when certain elements are happening or when people are talking, etc. I try to keep them to a minimum, but yes, I do use some of that. And it's not probably going to change anytime soon, just because most of these figures they have ratchet joints, and in order to animate really small motions, you need some amazing control. And these aren't actual stop motion dolls that have the armatures and all the little things inside of them. That is that makes it That just makes it so much more difficult. How do you do slow motion? Slow motion is just literally adding tons more frames over and making the motion just go really super slow. And then you usually add some sort of a sound effect or something to also help make it sound like it's in slow motion as well. So that's how you do slow motion. It's hard to do to make it look smooth. It's easy with computer graphics because you can just simply it'll calculate out more frames. But when you're doing it in stop motion where you have to physically add the frames yourself, that gets very difficult. I've never tried 48 frames per second. Honestly, I don't think I could even stomach it. 24 is hard enough. Okay, let's get back. Sorry, I get sidetracked on these. It's also why I don't do these live streams very often, because otherwise I get nothing done. But okay, so here we are. So now this is the true frame 12. So this is kind of what I was expecting to see, is that it's too close. So we need to make some adjustments to the motion, because as you can see, I can't see Optimus anymore. He's off the screen. So we're gonna need to speed up this motion a little bit. So I am going to grab this handle here, and we're gonna pull this back so it's going a little bit more of a constant speed at the beginning here. And we're going to slow it down like at the end. There, let's see what that looks like now. So now I'm keeping it at the same frame, but now it's readjusted the position based on the new graph that I just pulled. And so now if we flip back over, now you can see there's more Optimus in frame. So I think if we do that a little bit more and tweak that, then we should be okay. All right, so we'll slow that down a little bit more, increase this out a little bit more, reset this position, and let's take another peek. That actually might be okay, because he's actually going to be shifting legs over to the other side, and then he's going to be slowing down for this next frame while he dodges. So we might be able to pull this one off here. But I think I'm going to try tweaking it just a touch bit more. Yeah, I think that will be good, because then here it'll slow the action down, then the motion backwards, when he does his little side step and dodges. So I think that should be good. So that's basically where we wanted to start. And that was the second step. And so on the third step, he should be roughly in the same spot. So if we am starting here, had him about here for the second step. Sorry, I know some of this you guys aren't seeing on camera. It's hard for me to make all this happen at the same time. But if we look at the next frame, or the next time he steps down, after he dodges the laser blast, let's see where that looks. Okay. Yep. So after he dodges the laser blast, he'll be in full frame at that point, which will be good. And then he's going to start running and taking one more step towards Megatron. So it'll be a little bit of a close-up shot, but let's see where where the ending looks. So if we take him over here to the last step, and so then we're gonna do, he'll be roughly here. Let's take a look. Now he's too close again. So we're gonna have to make some adjustments here. All right, pulling that out. Oop, I need to reset that to another spot. Yeah, sorry guys. I mean, I know at some point here I can't do a lot of answering questions, and it just takes time. This is why I want to do it live. I know some people say, why can't you just make videos and just do tutorial videos and stuff? And I could absolutely do that, but I want you to see what it's like actually happening. Because what happens when you do it and how they do it in like 10 seconds on a tutorial video, it doesn't ever match up, and you're like, well, hey, how come it takes me 4 hours to do it when it just took him like 10 seconds on the video? And that's why, is because on the videos you cut out all this fluff, and you know the exact right number just off the top of your head because you've already planned this all out, and it's not real, because animation is all about figuring this out. I didn't prep this scene ahead of time. I set up the slider. I made sure the slider worked. I had my city set up because this is why the scene that I want to work on. But other than positioning the lights and things, I didn't have this all laid out in exactly the way I wanted to do it. I wanted you guys to see the process that actually happens here. And stop motion is slow. There is nothing fast about stop motion other than when you play it back. That's like the only thing that's fast about this. So you have to actually just take it one step at a time, and know that it takes a ton of patience, and that's just the reality of it. So I'm gonna pull this over a little bit more, and we're gonna do a little bit more here. I have a feeling, I'm just watching the camera move. It just doesn't move much, and so yeah, it's still way off. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to add in a new keyframe, because there's just no way around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a keyframe here, and we are going to move it to where we want it to actually be. And I want it a little bit farther over yet. All right, so here's what I want to be on that last step, and then that looks good to me. So we'll keyframe that, and we got some really interesting stuff happening here. So we don't need that like that anymore. Fix that up a bit. Can I delete this keyframe? Yep, there we go. That's better. And then this last keyframe here, we'll go ahead and move to that spot. This one is way wrong. So this needs to go much higher. That was probably part of my problem right here. is because this ending spot wasn't really in the right spot after all. So let's take a look now. So yeah, so this looks like a pretty nice ending position for him. He's gonna end up running probably one more step at this point. So we're gonna need it to be a little bit farther yet. So just moving the camera a bit and checking a little bit farther. There we go. That's how I want the last frame to look right there. Obviously more in focus, but we fix focus along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and then mark this guy as a keyframe. And so now we have a new and better motion path here. And I think what I should probably do is just go back to each of these and make sure they're in the position I want and just put a keyframe. That I probably should have just done that from the beginning, and it probably would have worked a lot better for me. So, all right, while this is moving, let me answer a few more questions if I missed any here. You're a big fan of my videos. Oh, well, I appreciate that very, very much. I enjoy making them. I don't have a ton, and I do try to fill it with some reviews here and there. But reviews aren't what I do. I like doing some reviews here and there, and I know some people watch me just for my reviews, and that's cool. But I like animations. That's what I do. That's why I include a animation in each of my reviews. So that's why I started a channel is for animation. So I don't mind doing some reviews in between, but really animation's what I really, really want to do. I just wish it wouldn't take me so long. Let's see. The smokes, laser blasts, and sparks come with Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro. Excuse me. Um, Not much. Most of those type of things I've been actually using just composited effects. So you can do some of that with Motion, which is a $50 app. Motion is kind of like After Effects, where but it's kind of a mix between After Effects and Premiere. So it's a little bit. Am I missing one of his questions, or did I finally get it? There is other things like Dragonframe, but and cheaper, but and they do the onion skinning, which is important. But yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to ignore you. I wasn't trying to, so I apologize. Okay. I know I tried iStop motion. Honestly, I didn't really like it, and ever since I've gotten Dragonframe, I can't even tell you how much better it is. It's just so much better in every way. In every way. I have no idea how to get famous because I'm not famous. So um, hopefully, hopefully someday it will. The popularity of my channel will catch on even more. But let's see, how long does it take to make these videos? Vector Sigma Volume 1 took me 9 months from the first frame I took to the day I released it. Um, Vector Sigma, I had it completely laid out, well, almost completely laid out by the time I started Rivals. Rivals took me 2.5 months because I didn't use any green screen in Rivals. When I use green screen, everything takes way longer. Well, 2000 sub famous. I guess I could tell you how I did it. I released Transformers Rivals. And then that got me to like 1,700 or 1,800 subscribers. So it was that video that seemed to be super popular. My Vector Sigma Volume 1, people really love it when they see it, but for some reason, it just kept falling off of the YouTube search engines, and half the time it wouldn't even show up in the searches. And I kept playing enough times to YouTube where it finally shows up there now, but now it's just not as popular as Rivals by a long shot. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people found me through Rivals. It has the most views out of any video on my channel, and which I know is nothing compared to other people. You know, some people they have animations that are clearly not as I would say um, the quality level isn't as high, or they didn't spend as much time on it as I did, and they're quite a bit. They have quite a few more views than I do. I stop motion on iOS, and they also have a version for the Mac as well. But yes, that is the other app that I used. I agree, Luke. I never started my channel to be super popular or famous. That's never been a thing of mine. I just thought, hey, if I'm gonna make these cool videos for myself, why not share them with other people and see what they think? So I don't really. I love the fact that I'm getting more views, and if I can actually start making some sort of revenue from this, I would love to do this full time. But I'm so far away from actually being able to replace my job income with this. It's not even funny. But if I could use it to help augment the hobby and use it to buy more Lego backgrounds, more cities, I'm going to start doing building some sets for an Autobot headquarters, a Decepticon headquarters, some Cybertron backgrounds, because my story does not always stay in Lego City. It will be going through the space bridge to Cybertron. So it does go there, and I will not green screen everything. I'm not a big fan of how it looks when people green screen everything. So I don't want to do that. I want some practical sets in all of my animations. So that means I'll be spending time building sets along the way. And that's going to cause my videos to take longer to get done. But I want them to look a certain way for me. So if they take longer, they take longer. I think there are definitely a group of people who like the movie figures and movie stuff better. And there's no doubt about it. But there's a very large fan base that are very much into the G1 era stuff. And like I said, I think there's a place for both. And I think my story, as you see it unfold, will have room for some crossover. I am not aware of any way of getting Dragonframe for free. Um, so if you can't afford Dragonframe, definitely don't say, well, I guess I can't stop motion animate because I don't have Dragonframe. No, keep doing it, because Dragonframe is only part of it. The tool is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it does not move your characters for you. It doesn't tell you how far to move the character from one spot to another. You have to do that. You have to think about how you will actually move your characters, how you will actually make them look like they're actually doing that action. So you're the one that has to still do this stuff, and that's the thing. That's not something that you can just use a software to do for you. You have to learn how to do that part yourself. Thanks. I appreciate any channel sharing. So I really, really appreciate that. And And hey, I will tell you right now that I am not I'm not rich. I do not come from a rich family. We we grew up very, very poor. I have a good paying job, but I have a family to provide for, so I have a limited budget that I set aside for each month to put towards this stuff. And so while it may seem like I have a lot here, this is stuff I've been collecting for years. And it's just finally getting to the point where I can actually do stuff with it. So just know that I've been at this for a long time, and I've been trying to figure out what to do for my animation for a long time. And I wrote the outline and the first script for a Vector Sigma series over 2 years ago. So it's just know that it's going to take a while to do some things, but if you really have an idea and you want to stick to it, just keep going. Just keep working at it. And I if you watch my Vector Sigma series, you'll see a spot where Optimus Prime drives right up to the camera and he transforms. I did that shot 10 or more times. At, not kidding. It took me forever to get it to look right. And it just drove me nuts because I didn't like this, or I had the lighting wrong, or this or that or another thing happened. And I can't tell you how many times I redid that scene. But just just be picky with yourself. If there's something that bothers you, fix it before you put it out. Don't be set to anyone else's time frame. You make it the way you want to see it, and then you let people enjoy it after that. So, all right, let's see. Why is my looks like my camera lost connection here? My side view camera. So let's just go ahead and continue on. Sorry, I get on these soapboxes and I start on a tangent, so I apologize for that. So all right, let's see where we're at here. Okay, so let me reset back to my starting point, and then we have one step forward to here, and so we want to go to this step here and move the camera. Is this a new Masterpiece wind charger, or are you talking about like a third-party one? Oh, and just so you know, too, my last name is Graf. My first name is Garrett. So yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. My channel has been growing by leaps and bounds lately, and I am super thrilled. I really hope it continues. Well, thank you, Sam, and I appreciate that. You know, I try to be careful. I don't like to bring up religion or politics on my channel because I don't really think it has a place with Transformers. But I do appreciate those sentiments, and I really really do appreciate that. Okay, so now let's move this back over here. So I want to adjust this keyframe here. I'm going to add a keyframe, and we're going to make a little adjustment. A little bit more. And that looks much better. Much, much better. I like that spot better. Okay, so I'm going to set this keyframe. This makes more sense because if you look at the graph, I have from my second step to my third step, he's really just dodging at that point. So he's not going to be actually running. So that makes sense that the camera doesn't move as much during the second and the third step. So I think this is going to be a much superior motion. And I know this take a really long time to set up the motion, but I will tell you this will pay off. When you add motion like this to stop motion, it it just adds a new level of realism to the shot. And I don't know how else to describe it. It's just quite amazing. All right, let's look at camera settings here because we want to make sure that this looks right. So I'm going to do a test shot here. When I do green screens, one of the things I need to make sure is that the background is in focus. So here's a big green screen tip for all you guys. If you want to be able to successfully blur or remove a green screen from the background, the more in focus it is, the cleaner the green screen will actually remove. If you actually, yeah, yeah, I know. I apologize. Some of these are not very easy to see. But in the background here, there's already kind of a little bit of a blur. It's a little bit out of focus. This will probably green out okay. Any blurrier than this, and this will not look good. Thanks, I appreciate it about the Soundwave says. I have a lot of fun voicing Soundwave, so. But anyways, this right here, if this stays in blurred, you'll have a green line all the way around that. So you want to be as sharp and crisp as possible. So I may actually increase my thing here, my aperture. So it's going to be darker, but it's going to be sharper. So as you can see, it's sharper now in the background, but now it's darker. So now to get the brightness that I need to go ahead and adjust some other settings. So I can either go to 800 ISO, or I can go longer on the frame, which is what I'm going to try to do first. I'm going to go longer on the recording. And I'm going to check my levels here. If you watch my first video, you know what I'm doing when I'm checking my light levels. There's a spot on my camera that I'm actually checking this on. And let me see if I can get that other camera up and running here. Let me see. I'm just going to restart the camera app on my phone. I'm using a remote camera app to do some of the wide shots here for you guys. But let me bring this over again. Okay. So let me switch my camera angles. So now here is back on my camera, and so what I was referring to was these lines here where the numbers are. There's the dash mark. When I take a test shot and I click the test shot button on my program here, it takes the actual frame and then it puts a little dash underneath there what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep that little line underneath that center point. So I'm adjusting the lighting and the different settings for how long the shutter speed is, how great the aperture is, and what ISO I'm using. And I'm trying to keep it right there in the center. So as you can see, that center spot right there, that's exactly where I want now my lighting is nice and bright. If I want things to be darker, not a problem, I can do that. But I can either do that in post-production and then everything will stay nice and sharp. Well, let's see. My family just messaged me. But so as you can see, that's what we're doing here. So I have a feeling we're not going to get to much animation during this session, guys. I just have a strange feeling that this isn't going to happen. But let me go ahead and switch back to my computer screen here. Okay. So on the green screens for Vector Sigma, the first thing I do, I'm going to show you some examples of what I do with the green screen stuff. So let me show you in Final Cut. So initially what I do, I'll switch back to my selector tool, is I have this, this one plate here. So if I double click on this, this is a compound clip, and I'm gonna get in here. My computer is gonna run really slow with Final Cut, so just so you know, with all the live stream stuff running. But I always use the same background plate. So if I reveal that in the browser, I can then show it to you here. So it's just this one large desert picture. I always use the exact same one. This is my temporary background, and it's just a sky with some ground terrain and a desert background. Now, there might be a few shots that I actually use this for in the final, but most of the time I will layer additional layers of buildings. So what I've done in the past is I'll lay out, I'll take my different Lego buildings and I'll configure them in different configurations, and I'll take a picture of them like a row at a time, and I'll layer them out, and then in the background I'll put another cityscape blurred in the background, so it looks like the city is larger than it actually is. So in Vector Sigma, you'll see that a lot in the background. The cities look larger than they actually are, and so that was my way of trying to make the city seem bigger than it should be normally. So go back to my main timeline here. And but yeah, so that's what I'm doing here. As you can see, it's just the green screen is out, and it just replaced it with that standard temporary background picture that I use. The other spot that I've done it green screen is like here. I have a theater scene inside of a theater, and these guys are all watching a theater scene and fights occurring outside. So you can see I have I use storyboard. I do quick sketches on my iPad, and just to give me an idea what I want the action to be, and I augment that with pictures I've taken, and I lay out the story. So like for example, here's a little section for you guys to see here. Hopefully this plays smoothly. I don't know if it will. We'll find out.
Ooh, you can actually feel the effects. I wish we could have seen this movie in 3D.
Yeah? You sure you want the movie to jump out at you?
So there's Optimus just gets thrown up against the wall and his hand crashes through right as she says, "Do you want to see it in 3D?" And then that's a little comedy part I added into this one here. And so then they continue their fight outside of that. So there's a little section for that I have done, and as you can see, I just blacked out the background there in this particular case because I just wanted it to be dark. And for the lighting to make it look like they were in the theater watching something, I just kept changing my lights. I just kept turning them on and off and doing just different combinations of brightness, moving it closer and farther away, and just different stuff to make it look like different action is happening on there. I'll give you another sneak peek here. Here's a little spot of some animation. Some temporary shots here.
Bumblebee, get Spike to safety. Hand over the human, and I will let you live. You'll have to go through me, Megatron. With pleasure.
And this is the part we're animating right here, where he's running. And so again, a lot of these are temporary shots, and they'll be replaced as time goes on, and as I animate these out. And so I usually try to set up one direction in one shot, and I try to shoot all the different action scenes that are in that camera angle first, and then I come back and do it. And then I have like here's Prowl. He's gonna do a cool little flip off of a building and transform in midair, so that should be pretty cool looking. And then back before all that, there's a Devastator and Devastator. This is the old Devastator that I originally was going to use. I had pictures from that, and but I'll have Devastator fighting Defensor. So they're going to be fighting a bit. So that battle continues with those guys. There will be some spots where Spike is going to give Bumblebee the history of like how he found the key, and Bumblebee will be here talking about why they're looking for the key and what the deal is, and so here's your last sneak peek. Here's how Spike found the key. So oh, hang on, this will need to be rendered, otherwise it will not play smoothly. So let me see how long it will take here. No, it's not going to take long. All right. Here's your last sneak peek for the day.
To it. I was out in the desert searching for valuable items with a metal detector. And all of a sudden, I found something massive. The metal detector went off the scale. I took out a shovel and started to dig, and that's when I hit solid metal. But it was strange and very thin. I used my axe to pick at it when the floor gave way, and I fell into a cave. Ugh. It looked like it was a crater, but coated in metal. I'd never seen anything like it before. And in the middle was a golden key. And that's how I found it.
Perceptor and Autobot back on stack.
So there you have it, guys. You guys got the first peek at Vector Sigma Volume 2, some of the completed scenes. There are a few more, but I don't want to show off everything. So, and yeah, that's how he became Batman. That's kind of funny. I didn't really think about the correlation there. That shot right there, that cave scene, that took me a while to make, and just so I could do that. And if you can see, there's a particular character in the background, and that is something for a future episode. It's a little bit for the eagle-eyed people to see that there might have been a specific character that actually brought the key to Earth and crashed originally. So if you know of any airplanes that are white and red, you might be able to figure this out. you'll have to figure that out who he is on your own. So, but yeah, it's the animated um, sand. This is kinetic sand, and my wife is telling me it's time to eat. So I'm gonna have to end this here shortly. But if you watch when he actually lands in here, let me get it back just a little bit. This is called kinetic sand, and you can actually mold and shape it, but it looks like normal sand. So when let me just rewind it a little bit here. So I can actually animate the sand then. As you can see, it actually moves around like, you know, where I can actually shape it. So I was actually take a little tool and shape it, and then I can actually push it out. So it actually looks like he's actually doing the shoveling, even though I had to take these still frames. So that gives a very cool effect, though. And I really, really, really liked it. Yeah, it looks like real sand, doesn't it? It's. I mean, it actually is sand, but it's kinetic sand, and so it just gives you a way. It doesn't really stick to anything. It only sticks to itself, and it's what I was able to do to make this scene look so good. And there's another spot right after he falls in. I'll show you this. So watch the sand as he lands. So what I did is I moved the sand around him, and it looked like it splashed out. And that was just a really cool thing. And here, there was I just have it masked out where you can't see it, but I just used a clear stand to hold him up, you know, while he was falling through the air. And then when I had him land in, I just had the sand animate out. It was really, really cool, and I highly recommend you pick up some kinetic sand if you have any sand scenes. It's really, really fun. I do 24 frames per second. That's what I shoot at everything at, and then in editing, I sometimes slow things down or speed things up as needed. All right. But yeah, so that was my cave scene. So it was cool to build that practical set. And like I said, I want to do as much of that type of stuff as possible and stay away from as much green screen as possible. So that's my goal. Let's take some last few questions if you guys have anything else. I know we didn't get to any animation today. I'm sorry. I'm very long-winded, but I just really want to show you certain things. And today I really wanted to show you how the motion slider could be set up. And what I'll do is when this scene is done, I'll either upload it or tack it onto this video or something so you guys can see it as a teaser. And see this particular shot with the camera slider, and that way you can see what the final animation looked like. But yeah, it'll look really nice when it's all said and done. Yeah, 19 to 30. Yeah, that's 30 is a lot. And what I found is for me, 24 frames per second seems perfect. That's what movies are shot at. And so I really don't feel a need to go any more frames than that. So, and it seems to be plenty smooth for me. So I'm pretty happy with the 24 frames per second. Yeah, I do have a third-party wind charger. He's an older one though. I think they might have made a better one. But you asked, I think someone asked me how long is it? This number here is the current running time of this episode. Right next to the volume 2. It says 11 minutes, 56 seconds, and 3 frames. and that's including all of the title sequences, the 3D title, which I will update to include stuff from my contest entry. Every time I put out a video, I will have new slides in this picture. So that's something you'll see different every single time I put a video out. And then I have my normal title screen. Well, at first I do a previously on, so I recap the first episode for a few seconds. And then I jump right into the title screen again. Episode 2, it's called Escape from Brick City. And then we go ahead and jump right on to Spike and Bumblebee talking. And then the continuation of Devastator and Defensor battle. And then Prime and Megatron, Thundercracker versus Prowl, and Astro Train. I'll give you that little tip that Astro Train is in there. And Starscream is in this one. So he will be in there a little bit later in the episode. And and there is one other character that I'm going to include if I can get one in time. So we'll see. Anyone want to take a guess as to which character I would include if I can get one in time? I'll give you a hint, he's big. No guesses? Nope, but you're close. Jetfire's big. Metroplex is big too.
Omega Supreme, online.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens between Devastator and Omega Supreme if I can get this in time. So there's my surprise character. So you guys that watch this right to the end, you now know who's my surprise character at the very end of this, if I can get one in time. I have it all paid for, so we'll see. We'll see if I get one. All right, guys. I think this is about it for me today. Again, I'll release a update on the little teaser about how the animation turned out with the slider, motion slider. I just really wanted to give you guys a chance to see how I set up this scene and how the setup of a motion slider actually works. And hopefully you guys are able to learn a little bit from this. And we'll see what you guys think. So if there's no other quick questions, then I will say see you guys later. Yeah, Fortress Maximus was a little bit too big. All right, guys. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and you guys all have a good night.